And most of the time, you know, we're so lucky that we live in these privileged communities in America where our trash literally disappears from us. No matter how much we produce, we don't see the end results because our taxpayer monies pay for the beaches to be cleaned and our trash to disappear from cans magically. But as you saw from Jeremy Irons' amazing film, most of the world isn't like that. And, you know...
Your world isn't like that.
No, it's
you
not.
You burn it.
That's right, but we don't see it.
It's not them and us, it's you and you and you and all of us together. We're all messing up.
Right, but we don't see it as readily as the person...
But we're educated and we should understand that it happens. Just because we don't see it, we're not dumb.
No, but your film shows it to people that may not realize. And I think that's really, really important. And to see the deformities that we've caused through dioxin. I mean, it's very startling, and I think we need to be startled.
Yeah, we only showed, a lot of people criticize us for showing that Vietnam stuff, but it's very difficult to show the damage dioxins do in the level most of us carry. We can look at the fact that more and more children have allergies. We can look at the fact that more and more children have ADD and learning difficulties. We can look at the fall in the fertility rates, and we can wonder. But we can't show anything. That shows what happens in large quantities. And the scientists there told us that there is no quantity small enough to make no difference to us, and that it's concentrated in our children. So I think that is why we showed the Vietnamese stuff, which is very startling and very upsetting, I agree.
Sir.
Thank you. Gershon Cohen, Great Wheel Conservancy, and also Earth Management Institute, along with you, with working on toxics issues for many years in water. I just have one simple question, and that is any irons in the fire, so to speak, about doing a sequel that would address sewage discharges, because of course the pollution that we're putting into the aquatic environment in terms of toxins, endocrine disruptors, etc., the sewage, not to mention the fact that we're throwing away all this potential energy is a serious problem. Seems like it'd be a good follow-up. Thanks.
It would. Great locations. In fact, the follow-up we might be doing, if we can find a budget, is about food. It's about GM crops, which is another, I think, extremely worrying thing that we're being bullied into by the large corporations. And of course the pesticides that these crops demand, which are going to our oceans. But I'll mention sewage and see how Andy jumps.
I'd love to point out the importance of wastewater and effluent from treatment plants. The microbeads we found in the Great Lakes, I'm pretty confident that's from combined sewage overflows. There's so many water treatment facilities that when they get overburdened by too much rainwater, they actually combine their raw sewage with street runoff, all that water, rainwater, pump it right into our waterways. So we're finding microbeads in the Great Lakes. I know in the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, where I was kayaking, there were tons of little Q-tips, tampon applicators, and microbeads as well. So I mean, it's a significant source of microplastics into the marine environment.
I have to say that there is a problem about sewage in that, and composting, in that it smells. And I'm sure here in St. Petersburg, you wouldn't want something nearby that was smelly. So that's something we have to cope with. You know, nothing comes for free. And I think it's very easy to say, we know the way it should be. It's the guys who are making all the money out of making it that they're the baddies. But actually, it's not. It's much more complicated than that. And if we want to live in a sustainable world, we are going to have to change. We are going to have to give up things which you may think are our freedoms or our rights, like a wrapped tomato. But we're going to have to give up stuff. And I think it's very, you know, if we don't want our sewage overflowing, then we're going to have to put our sewage somewhere where it will compost, and it will smell. Well, how does the community feel about that? Or can it be trucked thousands of miles away to the middle of the something desert, in which case we're going to use all that fuel? I mean, there are problems all across the way, but I think everything is solvable, but it ain't nirvana we're suggesting.
Well, Cleveland's a great petri dish for that. Question.
Savory conversation. My name is Anna Cummins with the Five Gyres Institute. Nice to see you again. Tremendous film. Thank you so much. I have one quick piece of good news. I think we need it, and then a question for Mr. Irons. The good news is that just a few months ago, Crest, which is a subsidiary of Procter & Gamble, which is one of the biggest manufacturing companies in the world, announced their intention, their mandate to phase out plastic microbeads. And so this is just an illustration that we are getting to them. It just needs to happen a lot faster. My question is completely different. I'm wondering what the response has been in the UK with you as a notable messenger from particularly the waste management industry and some of the incriminating evidence you had from Yorkshire, from the landfill, and from the other one. Fascinating research, and I wonder what the response has been.
Very little. Yeah, very little. Because films don't change things. Films will hopefully make people angry enough to want to change things. It's people who change things. And we haven't had a national screening. What do? We did actually stop an incinerator in Gloucestershire because we played it to the council. And they said, oh, we're not having one of those. So we did, that's one thing I do know about. But those tips are still there. And when we showed it to government, you know, about 15 of them came. It was a Friday night, it was the only night we could get the hall together there. And they all wanted to get back to their families for the weekend. So, how much did we change things? I don't know. It continues. It's continually being shown. We've got 8 showings in Ireland over the next 2 months. And it's continually being asked for throughout England. So, perhaps it will, if it changes 2 or 3 people's attitudes, then that's a step in the right direction. But it's a tiny step at a time.
Good evening, my name is Eddie. I'm living in Indonesia since more than 20 years, and I've been there first in